Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitamena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamakyam Dadati Sapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurum Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyev cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Namo Namo Aniruddhaya Hishikeshendriyatmane Namaha Paramahamsaya Purnaya Nibhutatmane Swarga Pavarga Dwaraya Nityam Suchi Sade Namaha Namahiranya Viryaya Chaturhotraya Tantave. Hare Krishna. So we are continuing with our sessions on the principles of surrender, Saranagati. We are following in the same pattern or the sequence as given by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his book of poems called Saranagati. And in the previous two sessions specifically, I would say the previous two topics that were discussed were topics of humility, and which is dainya, and then we spoke of the principle of Atmanivedana. These are two principles that we spoke of, and both these principles are intricate and they're very closely connected to the main topic. In some cases, one can say that there's a lot of overlap between dainya and Atmanivedana because one way or the other is impossible. And then in this particular week's session, we would want to touch upon the topic of being able to be maintained by Krishna. Krishna is the only maintainer. So, as always, what we will do is that we will start with a Bhagavad Gita verse which resonates with the theme, and then we will go deeper into understanding the other aspects of the essence of the topic. So that the main verse that I'm going to focus on, a couple of verses, but then I'm going to start with would be 7.16. 7.16. Right? If those of you who have Bhagavad Gita, 7.16, it's a well-known verse. Please repeat after me. Chaturveda bhajante mam Janah Sukritino Arjuna Arto Jigyasurartarthi Gyani cha Bharatarshabha. O best among the Bharatas, four kinds of pious men begin to render devotional service unto me. The distressed, the desire of wealth, the inquisitive, and he who is searching for knowledge of the Absolute. Yeah, he's searching for the knowledge of the Absolute. Okay? Anyway, so the primary topic that we want to talk about is that Krishna here in the Bhagavad Gita is saying that there are four kinds of pious men. And these pious men have objectives. Some of them are distressed. Some of them are desirers of wealth. These two objectives of being distressed because they're going through some challenges and desiring to expand their material opulence, material wealth, the resources they have, both of these fall into karma mishra bhakti. There is some amount of devotion, there's some amount of attachment to Krishna, They approach him, but then they have this objective of wanting to increase their wealth. They want to reduce their distress. They are distressed, so it's quite natural that they want to have, reduce the distress. So this is karma mishra. It is not pure devotion, because it has an objective. It has an objective of wanting some relief. And then the other type is the jnana, the jnana mishra bhakti. Those who are inquisitive and those who are seekers of knowledge. So they could, at some point in time, they are much better than the karma mishra bhakti category, because at least in this particular situation, they are not aspiring for things that are material. They're aspiring for something higher. They're aspiring for having a better understanding of the absolute. But even this is not so much based on pure devotion. This is based on wanting to accumulate knowledge for the sake of knowledge. So in other words, they want to accumulate knowledge as a means of saying that this is false, there's something else which is true, and that is my objective. But it is yet not what we call pure devotion. It doesn't fall in that category. Okay? Now, in Harinam Chintamani, we understand our objective is to be able to chant Shuddha Nam, chant the holy names of Krishna as a resident of Vrindavan. In most cases, when we speak about this topic, devotees would not even be able to comprehend why this objective is even important. It's a fact. It's a fact. But our job, our duty, just as our acharyas have been doing, and just as our predecessors have been doing, is to be able to share experiences, to set aspirations. If you do not set aspirations and goals, and again keep repeating what the goals are, then we would constantly remain at a level of aspiration of somewhat, far from what the motives are. So it's very important for us to define goals. Anyways, we'll come back to that. So very importantly, one has to understand that this particular verse is saying that there are 4 types of people who approach Krishna, and these 4 personalities, in the third verse from here, Krishna uses the word that Udaraha sarva evaiti jnanitvatmaiva me matam astitah sah yuktatma mam evanuttamam gatim. All these devotees are undoubtedly magnanimous souls. Krishna uses the word, they are magnanimous. Why? Because they are at least approaching me. They are not just trying for these aspirations of wanting to build wealth independently. They are not approaching someone else. They are quite magnanimous. So they are not being put down. We are not trying to put down someone who has an aspiration which is material and who is approaching Krishna. We are merely saying that there's a difference. How does it contrast? The contrast is being given by Srila Rupa Goswami. What does he say? Anya bilashita shunyam. Jnana karmadi anavratam. He's saying there can be no motive, and there cannot be any other motive other than wanting to follow anukulyena Krishna anushilanam, wanting to follow in the footsteps and wanting to serve Krishna as a Brajvasi. And he is saying, Jnana karmadi anavratam, there cannot be any objective which is on the premise of jnana and karma. It cannot be. This is the definition of Shuddha Bhakti. Okay? So now we are at a stage where we realize that practically every devotee, practically one can say that, who comes into Krishna consciousness fits into the previous verse. They have aspirations for wealth. They have aspirations for relieving themselves of distress. They're either distressed or they are having aspirations of wealth. They want to increase their opulence in some other way. Some of us may say that I do not have such a desire. I do not have such a desire for wealth. But then if you're trying to maintain a certain kind of lifestyle which you believe is what is required for you to be able to move forward, those are also aspirations of wanting a certain lifestyle, certain amount of resources. It is not free of desire. So we don't really want to debate whether we are one or the other. The fact is that there is one condition where Krishna says everybody comes to me and they're wanting wealth, they're wanting to relieve themselves of distress. And then we are saying that's not the definition of pure bhakti. What is that? How does that get converted? Srila Harinath Thakur in Harinam Chintamani says that those who come with the desire of wanting to attain wealth or wanting to experience life of a better standard, they would want to experience life of a better standard either in this planet or after leaving this planet in the higher planets. The idea is that they're wanting to aspire for a better, comfortable situation and better resources. Okay. Now, these are called karma unmukha Sukriti. They have some Sukriti. That's the reason why they are approaching Krishna in the first place. They have some good fortune. They have come in touch with some good fortune, some level of piety, which is itself is powerful. That's the reason why they are approaching Krishna. This is karma unmukha Sukriti. It is Sukriti. Krishna says that in the verse, Sukritinaha. There is no doubt. It is Sukriti. It's good fortune. However, they are approaching Krishna. It's good fortune, but it is the fortune, good fortune itself is a bit tainted. It is karma unmukha Sukriti. They have certain aspirations. They're not really approaching Krishna without aspirations. They have some aspirations. You know, Krishna, I need this, this, and this. And you hear this from devotees, by the way. Immaterial of number of years they have passed in this movement, you have devotees also making this statement, practitioners. To everybody's surprise, they would start blaming Krishna and blaming the process, saying, I'm chanting, I'm going to the temple, I'm doing this seva, I have received initiation, I have received the first, I have received the second, I engage in deity worship, I engage in all kinds of amazing things, yet I am distressed. Okay, where is this coming from? It's because it's karma unmukha Sukriti. It has only brought them to a stage of having adhikar for that particular level of Sukriti, and then they are distressed because that is not working out. It is a fact. Let's assume, let's just be very clear about, you know, if you're going to be coming for spiritual progress, you've got to learn to put what is in the heart on the table and question it, saying, is this the real motive? There's no point in hiding. There really isn't, because it's a waste of time for everybody. So we have to put ourselves out and say, is this really me? I'm having an issue. I'm kind of approaching, I'm chanting, and that's the reason for my disappointment. You see, one could be chanting for 20 years and say that I spent 20 years, I dedicated myself, and look what has happened. I can't pay my rent, I can't do this, I can't do this. Okay? Then where is this coming from? Where is this whole distress business coming from? Or that I'm unhealthy, and as a consequence, somehow chanting of the holy names, serving Krishna, being a part of the glorious moment of Lord Chaitanya should have fixed that problem. Why didn't it fix it? So the point which I'm trying to make here is that there is this inherent intrinsic motive that somehow Krishna consciousness is supposed to fix the problems or give us what we come into Krishna consciousness for. And this is what 716 is all about. That people approach me, and they approach me for wealth, they approach me for relieving the distress. Srila Rupa Goswami is shooting both of these down, saying neither of these fall in the category of Shuddha Bhakti, and Shuddha Bhakti is as given by Mahaprabhu, as distributed by Lord Nityananda Ram, is the fact of being completely free, unmotivated, unconditional service, completely free of the motive for resolving issues because I'm in distress, resolving and bringing up a greater level, bigger standard of living. Neither of these are motives of Shuddha Bhakti. Srila Rupa Goswami is shooting this down. Now, how does this particular aspiration, and then there is this category of people who are searching for knowledge, they're very inquisitive, which is perfectly better. They're much better than those who are on the karma platform. Both of them are glorious according to Krishna. So who are we to disagree? Both of them are magnanimous. Udaraha. He's saying Udaraha. He's saying that these are magnanimous personalities. So who are we to disagree about that either? They are magnanimous, Krishna says. At least he's approaching me. So the question is that how does this particular motive of jnana and how does this motive of wanting to resolve the issues of distress, wanting to accumulate wealth, wanting this, wanting that, how does it get transformed into Shuddha Bhakti? Isn't that what we also seek? That we want to go from 716 to the 18th chapter, 1864. We want to be able to have a steady progression where we resolve these issues. So how do we go from one stage to the other? So this is the real thing. Now in Harinam Chintamani, Srila Haridas Thakur is giving us instructions. He says this resolution will happen through Shravanam, Shravanadi. What does it mean? This resolution will happen through coming in touch with a pure soul who is able to call upon the names of Krishna, and that particular name of Krishna enters into our ears and then transforms our heart. The seed of prema, the seed of love, is being transformed and is being put into our heart by a personality who already has it. How can someone give something which they do not have? Right? A beggar or a madman can make a statement that, I can, the bank is mine, I can make I'll make a donation of 5 million or whatever. How credible is that? Because you don't have it in the first place. Anybody can make that statement. So someone who already has it will have the ability to pick up what they have in the heart, and then through the medium of Shabda Brahman, that is reality. Shabda Brahman, the word being used in the Vedas of Shabda Brahman, which is realizing the supreme form of the Lord through the medium of sound. That particular deposition of prema occurs because these personalities who have mixed devotional service have mixed objectives, Mishra Bhakti, of wanting to accumulate wealth, wanting to resolve the distress, come in touch with a pure devotee who is able to inject through the medium of sound the pure name of Krishna into their hearts. And that particular sound, which is uttered by a pure devotee, is in reality Namanaminoho Abhinnatvam. The Padma Purana says there's no difference between Krishna and his names. So it is not everybody's utterance of the name Krishna which has the ability to enter into our ears and then transform our hearts. It is the utterance of someone who has already realized the specific relationship and who is in prema. That particular person has the potency for him to be able to chant and for him to be able to inject that prema into our ears. So now you have the situation of us coming in touch with a pure devotee. Then why is it that even after we come in touch with potent people, and there are so many potent devotees, dedicated devotees in our movement, so many of them who have dedicated their lives and they have made immense progress. Why is it that after hearing from them, after coming in touch with them, after serving them, after going through a spiritual progress of being able to worship the deities, doing everything, why is it that we still have issues? You see, we are very clear. It's a fact that when you rub two pieces of dry wood together, both pieces of dry wood have fire in them. So when you rub two pieces of dry wood, wood can catch fire because both of them intrinsically have fire. It's an intrinsic quality that dry wood has fire. You see, that's how forest fires get started. Forest fires get started because you have some scraping of dry twigs with each other, and then you have this wildfire which occurs in completely uninhabited mountains in California and so many different places. Now, the point is, you're coming in touch with fire when there's a pure devotee. You're coming in touch with someone who is extraordinarily potent, who has the ability to inject pure devotional service into our hearts. Then where is the issue? Where exactly is the issue that there's no fire or it's pretty smoky, hazy? Why? Because the word, which is us, is wet. How is it wet? The burning of this unwanted nonsense has not fully happened. As a consequence, it is still wet. It is still wet with desires of wanting to resolve issues, wanting wealth, wanting this. There are so many other desires. As a consequence, this wood which is within us is intrinsically wet, and it is not coming and blazing when it comes in touch with even blazing fire. You see, when you offer food, when you put a piece of wood which is wet into fire, what happens? You generate smoke. You don't generate, you don't add fuel. You generate a bit of smoke. Why is it so? Because it's still wet. Okay, so that's the issue. The real issue is that in Krishna consciousness, expecting Krishna consciousness to solve everything that we have manifested and created and every kind of desire is an issue, because that is not Krishna consciousness. It is not. What is the original condition? And now we are coming to the topic of the day. The topic of the day is to be maintained by Krishna. What is the original condition? You see, I am talking on topics, we are talking on topics which are perhaps at the summit of Krishna consciousness. This was written by the deepest realizations of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur when the devotee matures. Perhaps you're talking on topics which are quite complex in their particular level of understanding. But if we do not have a flavor of what lies up there and what to aspire for, we would constantly be aspiring for things which have no meaning. Now, what is this particular situation of being maintained by Krishna? Does it mean that we remain inactive? Does it mean that we remain inert and not do what we're supposed to do? What is the meaning of maintained by Krishna? You see, the intrinsic quality of being a resident of Vrindavan. Goloka Vrindavan, the intrinsic quality of being a resident of Vrindavan is the quality of having the Swarup Lakshana, the intrinsic quality is to be completely dependent on Krishna. The residents of Vrindavan are completely dependent on Krishna. They are. That's their intrinsic quality. And when they're completely dependent on Krishna, and then they are aspiring for nothing but wanting to serve the Lord in pure devotional service, who is maintaining them and who is making them, who is enriching the devotional service? Whom? Come on, let's hear that. Spiritual energy, Yogamaya. It is Yogamaya who makes all the arrangements in Vraja to fulfill the desires of the devotees in Vraja, which are connected to Krishna. It is Yogamaya who makes those arrangements. So she observes saying, Krishna is desiring this, or the devotee is desiring this. How can I manifest such a desire? In fact, our coming in touch with the form of Sri Guru is also a manifestation of Sri Yogamaya. It is spiritual energy which connects us to the Guru, which connects us and increases the relationship. It is spiritual energy. So it is Yogamaya who does this in Vrindavan. So that is dependence on spiritual energy. Complete dependence on spiritual energy is the specific intrinsic quality which is required in Vraja, because they are completely dependent. They have no other aspiration other than wanting to be completely in touch and being able to serve Krishna with pure desires. Anya bilashita shunyam, jnana karmadi anavratam, anukulena Krishna anushīlanam, bhakti uttama. This is the definition of Uttama Bhakti, pure devotional service. This is compared to being a green mango. It's a mango, it's green. The idea is that if people were to follow the instructions given by Srila Rupa Goswami, the green mango becomes a ripened fruit. That is prema. But for us to even get to the point of being able to taste the ripened fruit, we at least have to know what to do at the stage of the unripened green mango. So even that is wonderful. If someone were to make endeavor to be completely free of desires which are associated with karmakanda, desires that are associated with jnana. That itself is considered to be trying to taste the green mango, which is an approximation of the real thing. It's not quite there, but it's an opportunity nevertheless. Does that make sense? Okay. So the residents of Vraja have to intrinsically develop this attitude of wanting to be dependent on Krishna. They have no other aspiration. So what does it say of us here? You see, this desire of wanting to be maintained by Krishna is a desire of a pure devotee. They are not inactive. It essentially means that they will do whatever they have to do in the planet, but their aspiration is to be a Vrajvasi. So they would allow the spiritual energy of the Lord, Yogamaya, to make changes to their lifestyle, to make changes to what they aspire for, so that they can ultimately go to Vraja and serve Rajendra Nandan. Our process is not about dying. We spoke about this the previous session. Our process has nothing to do with dying. Our process is not about dying, going back to some place. Okay, that's like an Indian joke, a bad one. You see? That's a very Indian thing to do. You know, oh, after we die, we'll go higher. No, we are not interested in dying. We want to experience everything that we want to experience right here on the planet while we are completely, fully active. Age doesn't matter. Younger you start, the better you are, because it's going to require time. Okay? So we spoke about it. It has nothing to do with dying. So we said that maintained and taken care of, and then our life being arranged by Yogamaya, the spiritual energy of the Lord, is the aspiration, is the condition in the spiritual kingdom. Our endeavor is to approximate such things here. We endeavor to bring such conditions here. Does it make sense? We are endeavoring. And how is and what is that endeavor? What is that endeavor for us to be able to move forward to that level? What is the specific endeavor? Okay. There's nothing else for us to be able to call upon the names of God. And this is universal. This is universal. It has nothing to do specifically with us, but then our job is to be able to call upon the names of God, and to call upon the names of God with such greed, with aspiration, that Krishna, I want to be maintained by your spiritual energy. And that happens when I have aspirations of wanting to serve you. When I'm not distracted. If you're going to have distractions of wanting things in this world, then you're going to be maintained by Mahamaya. You're not going to be maintained by Yogamaya. There is no yoga there. It's simply an experience of karmic reactions. Yoga is the coming together of the Atma with Krishna, of being able to serve, understanding the relationship. There is no Sambandha Gyan in this Mishra Bhakti. Okay? The Mishra platform, there is no Sambandha Gyan. There's nothing. They just know that Krishna is supposed to be more like, someone who is supposed to give them. They are called magnanimous. They are called Udara. There's absolutely no fact, no doubt that they are completely, magnanimous. They are much better than those who do not have such aspirations. So this very specific mood of a pure devotee is to be understood through the prayers of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He calls himself, I'm going to read a couple of verses, and Krishna makes his promise. We'll go there a little later. And Krishna makes his promise in the Bhagavad Gita. Again, we read 7.16. Let's see, what does Krishna say further down? No. What does Krishna say? What does Krishna say in 9.22? Yes. Ananyas chintayanto mam ye janaha pariyupishate tesham nityabhayuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. Okay, please repeat after me. I'm just reading the translation. But those who always worship me with exclusive devotion, meditating on my transcendental form, to them I carry what they lack, and I preserve what they have. What does this mean? Does it mean that you have an aspiration of whatever you think should be the standard of living that you have figured out? Or whatever we think in life? Is that what Krishna is saying, that I'm going to preserve what you have, carry what you lack? Is he some hotel, restaurant waiter where he's saying, I'm going to bring you whatever you order. I'm just going to give you whatever you need. You just have to order up, and then I'm going to be there. I'm going to give you everything. Is that what this is? No, he is referring to these personalities who are Anya Abhilashita Shunyam, Jnana Karmarya Navratam, Anukulena Krishna Anuchuranam, Bhakti Ruttama. Those who are aspiring to be Brajvasis. Those who are aspiring to go back to Vrindavan. Those who want to serve him while being here, as a Brajvasi would serve him, and whose aspiration is, Krishna, you maintain me, because my aspiration is to serve you. Give me whatever I need. Take away whatever needs to be taken away, so that I can come closer to you. That is the statement which Krishna is making, saying, if that is your aspiration, then my spiritual energy will maintain you. Yogamaya will intervene, and she would make arrangements for you to come closer to me. And that is exactly what Krishna means by saying that I will carry what they lack, and I will provide what they have. I'm sorry. I preserve what they have. My glasses are gone. Yeah. To them, I carry what they lack, and I preserve what they have. I think this is the first list for Krishna. Give me glasses. Right? Anyways, give me better eyesight. But anyway, we're managing. Okay. So the point which you wanted to make was that that's exactly what Krishna is saying. He's saying that. He's saying that maintaining is an aspiration. But then one might say maintaining me as I am, or I might set an even better standard of living. I want a bigger house, better car, more cars, this, that, whatsoever. And then Krishna is somehow or the other supposed to manifest all of that. And that's the promise made in the Bhagavad Gita. The answer is no. No. It's not that the holy names can't grant it. The holy names grant liberation when they're chanted. What to say of just granting material desires? Material desires are very paltry. Tuchcha hai, Right? We say in Sanskrit is tucha, it has absolutely no value because it perishes. Okay? We are satisfied with something and then we become dissatisfied. Dissatisfied. So it's called sankalpa, vikalpa. The mind says go to America. Then we come to America, the mind says go to India. Does it do it? It does. Yeah, when America becomes problematic, you want to go back to India. And then neighbors come to America, we want to come to America. The mind does it. It's sankalpa vikalpa. And then we are so distressed because things are not quite working out the way we want them to. Right? So this sankalpa vikalpa has nothing to do with these verses. It has nothing to do with the condition of the pure devotee, of the Vrajvasi. The Vrajvasi, the residents of Vraja, those who have this relationship with Krishna and who have the ability to call upon Krishna by his name as filled with love, filled with the relationship. Such personalities have also got this desire. Krishna, you maintain me. This is not out of laziness. They are simply wanting to be maintained just as much as an expression of love. Mother Kunti says this in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. She says, Krishna, Kunti, Mother Kunti, the mother of the Pandavas, she has lost her grandchildren. She has lost all her grandchildren practically, and she has suffered through intense humiliation. She has suffered through so many different calamities. And then you have Ashwatthama, the son of Dronacharya, firing the Brahmastra, and that Brahmastra is coming towards the family, even trying to hurt her, great grandson. At that time, her realization is that may these calamities come upon us again and again, because then you come in proximity to us. So what is this mood? This mood of wanting to be maintained by him. This mood is, okay, if I fall in trouble, you will come. And if you come, then I have the ability to see you, to have an interaction with you. So this aspiration is more at the mood of, wanting to serve. So this is the Vrajvasi mood. This is the mood in Vrindavan. This is the mood of a real chanter of the holy names. So when Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying that these are the principles of surrender, this is intrinsic to the principle of surrender. This has to be embraced. How is this to be embraced? First and foremost, we set our goals properly. Gaurabda is starting on the 22nd of March. It is the first day of Gaurabda, is the birth of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We are celebrating the birth of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on 22nd of March, few days away. That is the beginning of the year for us, for the next year, because we are proceeding in his mission. So our aspiration of wanting to serve Rajendra Nandan is carried out by serving Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And how do we serve him? We serve him by practicing the chanting of the holy names. Why should we practice the chanting of the holy names?
Because it works.
Not only that, right? That's a true statement. But then why should we chant the holy names? Because tomorrow everybody is planning to go on Harinam. Shouldn't there be an aspiration that someday in my life I would call upon Shuddhanam?
Yes.
Because that is the name which is going to collect the souls which are on the streets. It is not Mishra Bhakti. It is not Namabas. It is not Chaya Pratibimbam Namabas. It has got nothing to do with being able to collect souls. It is Shuddha Bhakti and Shuddha Nam which has the ability to pick up souls. Srila Prabhupada, when he came here in 1965, he sat in Tompkins Park with Kartals. What did he do? He did this exactly. He chanted upon the holy names because it was Shuddha Nam. It penetrated and entered into the ears of those who were assembled. And even though they were Americans who had absolutely no cultural connection to India, no cultural connection to the Vedic paradigm, they were immediately attracted because it was Shuddha Nam. It penetrated into their consciousness and it formed this connection. They were pious. They were pious, otherwise they would not have gathered around Srila Prabhupada. So our mission is to be able to work on ourselves to the point of being able to chant the pure name and then distribute the pure name in the streets of the world. This is the mission of the Hare Krishna movement. Every class, every piece of paper, every scripture every kind of worship, anything that we do, the institution exists for the purpose of us being able to serve in the movement of Lord Chaitanya by stepping out and then building ourselves to the point of calling upon the pure name and then distributing the pure name. Otherwise, we are distributing our desires, aren't we? We are simply distributing our desires, which in itself is glorious, by the way. It's completely acceptable because we are all aspiring. As long as there is this aspiration to taste the raw mango, that aspiration is there. Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karma dhyanavritam anukulyena Krishna anushilanam. This particular aspiration of wanting to taste, and kind of we are holding the raw mango. As long as that aspiration is there, that is fine, because Mahaprabhu will use us, and that's exactly what we ought to be doing. We ought to be going and then spreading the holy names. However, please understand that the real effect of Harinam is when we chant Shuddhanam. And that is the mission of Mahaprabhu. That is the mission of Mahaprabhu. I was just talking to someone, and I heard that in London, in the Soho temple, they have Harinam thrice a day, every day. 3 Harinam parties go thrice a day, every day in London. Unbelievable. It's almost as if they have figured it out. Huh? They have people going out thrice a day. Can you believe it? We do it twice a year, I think. Nityananda Ram's appearance and then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance, we do it twice. They do it thrice a day. It's just exciting just to hear that there's Harinam thrice a day. They organize themselves and they go thrice a day. How amazing is that? But then how do you go and spread the holy names? That's the mission of Lord Mahaprabhu. We do not need to endeavor to be in Vraja, because Mahaprabhu is Radha Krishna, Nahe Anya. He is non-different from Sri Radha and Krishna. They have come in one particular rupa, and that's Mahaprabhu. We serve Mahaprabhu by calling upon the holy names after building the ability to chant the pure name, or aspiring to chant the pure name. At least have that aspiration. And that is going to attract souls. And that is the contribution that we make. That contribution is rewarded with even more progress, because Mahaprabhu's movement is non-different from Krishna. Aspiration is to serve him so that we serve Krishna, ultimately. You see? That's the system given by our acharyas. And that's what is being said here in the Bhagavad Gita. You go from a position of Mishra, mixed devotion, of aspiring to either resolve issues, that's why we approach God, or we have this idea that the material existence is somewhat problematic, and then we want to be able to go beyond material nature, which is even better. We go from that level, that is the wet wood. We go from the wet wood to dry wood. The drying of wet to dry occurs by constant practice and constantly understanding what the aspirations are, what is the goal. We go from wet wood to dry wood, so that the dry wood, when it comes in touch with blazing fire or very dry wood, it would immediately catch fire, it will ignite, and it would allow us to move forward. How do you recognize wet wood? Recognize Karma Mishra, Jnana Mishra. Forget about Jnana Mishra, at least recognize Karma Mishra, because that's most prevalent. I would be surprised to see Jnanis in Edison. That would be a big deal. Okay, that's a very big deal. So I'm not going to build upon it, but yeah, Karma Mishra Bhakti, sure. But Krishna says, you're all very magnanimous. He's saying to all of us that you're all very magnanimous. I don't know if it was a tongue-in-cheek comment. I don't think so. I'm sure he meant it 100%. I doubt if it was a light comment. Okay, so now we understand what the transition is and what is meant. I just want to read a poem written by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, which is in line with this maintain me. So what is the mood of this devotee? See, if you don't understand the background which we just shared, if you hear this poem, it will be very difficult for people to comprehend what this is. Okay, so This is Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. For those of you who knew, he was a pioneer, and he practically re-established the mission of Lord Chaitanya in the planet. He re-established the mission of Lord Chaitanya 100 years back during the late 18th century. Yeah, and practically every literature that we read has a foundation from his writings. And he was one of the most amazing preachers. He had already written about the life and teachings of Lord Chaitanya in the late 1800s, early 19th century. He had sent a copy to McGill University in Canada. So he was already publishing. So he was one of the first writers. Okay, so let's just do this. Hold one moment, please. Okay, I will just read the translation, so it's easier. So this is accepting Krishna as one's maintainer. I do not know how I had the strength to come to your abode and take shelter at your lotus feet. You are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls, and it is for this reason that you are always engaged in this. O Lord, you are my only hope because you are full of compassion. You will not find anyone else who is more eligible for your mercy. Therefore, I am confident that you will remove my fear of material existence. No one within this world has the power to deliver me. O merciful Lord, you have declared that you are the only savior of the fallen and sinful people of the world. Right? Dina Bandhu, Jagatpate. O Lord of the universe, I have given up everything and have come to your lotus feet. I am your eternal servant, and you are my sole maintainer. In truth, everything belongs to you, and I'm only a caretaker. It is your duty to deliver me. I will give up my independence and take shelter at your lotus feet. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur humbly takes shelter at your lotus feet. Please forgive his offenses and thanks for chanting your holy name. In this way, kindly maintain him. This is the first song. Now, let me just read a couple of other verses. Now, here's one verse. I will serve you. This has got to do with being able to chant and call upon the holy names without being distracted. I will serve you without any anxiety. If a calamity occurs in my house, I will not consider myself to be responsible. Okay? Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives up his minute independence and engages in the service of your lotus feet as a devotee who is without any material possessions. He does not even consider anything of this world. Now, this is a very big statement to make. It's not light because it's being written by someone who is very, very advanced. It was written in the maturity of his devotional service. But if we don't understand the mood of someone who is writing, then we would tend to take these statements quite lightly. He's saying, I have surrendered everything at your lotus feet, and in this way have come to your house. You are my master, and I'm your dog. Kindly treat me in this way. Complete dependence like a pet. Saying, a pet really doesn't discriminate what it receives and what it does not receive from the master. It does not make any demands. The pet is there saying, I'm here to serve you. I'm attached to you, and that's it. Okay, I have no aspirations whatsoever. The pet is there. You see, the pet doesn't make any demands. It just accepts whatever standard the master provides, and it's quite grateful, and it's quite subservient. So he's making a statement here that that's the mood of someone who's going to be maintained. What does this mean? It goes in the context of saying, this is Anya Bilashita Shunyam. I have no other aspiration other than wanting to serve you. Jnana Karmadi Anavratam. I have no aspiration of wanting to resolve either my material condition of either lack of resources or suffering. I have no aspiration whatsoever. I only want to serve you. I just want to be able to be like a dog, someone who is being maintained by you. I have no other aspiration. Okay? So the point which you're trying to make here is, this is the condition of the Vrajvasi. Now, when does this happen? When someone says that I do not want anything, I just want to be maintained by you, automatically, he practically is removed from the influence of material energy, and spiritual energy takes over. So from that moment on, everything that happens in the life of the devotee is an arrangement for bringing the devotee closer to Krishna. It's almost as if everything is being arranged, rearranged. Whatever is needed, Krishna again makes that statement in 9.22. I will carry what you lack and I'll preserve what you have. Whatever is needed is going to be given. Right? If good health is needed, that's what is going to be given. If someone needs to be overwhelmed in certain ways, that's what is going to be given. If someone has an aspiration for Shuddha Bhakti, they have no problem in paying any price. What kind of price or what kind of value can you set to the objective of Shuddha Bhakti? Shuddha Nam. What is it which prompted a very old person to travel by ship? That was the condition provided by Mahaprabhu. Sumati Murarji could have written a check. She could have booked a ticket on Pan Am, and in the mid-60s you had flights. But then the passage that was provided was with a freight carrier, a ship, a freighter, which takes 2 months, rough seas, cyclones, hurricanes, and then it reaches the shore of Boston. Accepted. Okay, nothing but books in the back. He had $7 and then 40 rupees. Right? Nothing. He just comes here. Krishna is the maintainer. Someone picks him up, and this extraordinarily pure, advanced soul is picked up and he's taken to Butler, Pennsylvania. And in Butler, Pennsylvania, they were very magnanimous in hosting Prabhupada. But they were no way or means ready to accommodate such an advanced soul, a Vaishnava, who had such high standards of living. The lady used to smoke, and she used to, she was advised by the husband not to smoke in front of Prabhupada because it's Indian culture not to smoke in front of your, elders as a mark of respect. But Prabhupada put up with it. He never objected to that, never objected to the conditions provided. He came to New York City, and who met him? It was quite a bunch of people who probably were not very well trained at the time, but they were extraordinarily eager, and they had Sukriti. They had the good fortune of coming in touch with this extraordinary personality and be able to take up service. And then the accommodation that he had was with a drug addict. What did he do? He attacked him in the night one day, and Srila Prabhupada used to sleep in the office and have a bath elsewhere. It was like an extraordinarily artificial arrangement of moving around in this. What is all this? This is Krishna. This is how Krishna maintained Prabhupada. In 1965-66, Krishna maintained Prabhupada this way. When Mother Malati and Shyam Sundar Prabhu went to the UK to start the movement, Mother Malati was pregnant. She was living in a homeless shelter, in a box. Where do you go from living in a homeless shelter to meeting the Beatles? Meeting the Beatles in the UK in the 1960s, big deal. Where do you go from there to being advertised on all the buses in the UK? Where do you go from there to be given, George Harrison's house, which is the manor? Where do you go there? I mean, how do you go from one place? But the devotees in the early days, Prabhupada said, they were ready to be maintained by Krishna in any way. That was maintained by Krishna. Homeless shelter first, and then you live in a mansion. Later on, as the movement developed, they understood what the spiritual master was all about. They understood how much respect had to be given. They used to arrange big setups. They used to even arrange Rolls Royces and Bentleys to pick up Srila Prabhupada from the airport. There used to be people who used to become envious. They had never seen Srila Prabhupada come in a ship, suffer heart attacks on the way, suffer through seasickness. They never saw that. They saw the Rolls Royces and they became very envious. You are a sadhu. How are you traveling in big cars? So on and so forth. You see, that was how Krishna chose to maintain him later. Initially, Krishna maintained him one way, and then he chose to move his devotee around in a Rolls Royce. The devotee accepts it. It's Yukta Vairagya. It's perfectly fine. That's how he did it. I've shared the story about my spiritual master. First, when he went to Africa, he was eating the leftover vegetables from the market because there was really nothing. And then later on, he was eating in the banquets offered by the prime ministers and the kings of the continent. Nelson Mandela, there were joint speeches. You can see it on YouTube. There were so many other people who were, the heads of nations. That's how Krishna chose to maintain him on a later date. So do we understand how this is? How this works in terms of being maintained when you have this objective? That's exactly how Krishna chose to maintain him. Dhruva Maharaj, Krishna chose to maintain him initially in the forest with leaves. He went with Mishra Bhakti, but that was very dry wood. The moment he came in touch with Sri Narad Muni, who was absolutely blazing fire, that wood caught fire. It was from a small boy who is having this aspiration of wanting to have equal rights, right? He goes from there to having his own planet. Krishna chooses to maintain him the other extreme. Shri Prahalad Maharaj, who is fed, that's the first case of major child abuse. Prahalad Maharaj, Hiranyakashipu, Prahalad Maharaj, by his own father. You can imagine the amount of trauma which a child would have when it is being abused by the father or the mother or anyone who is supposed to protect. So Krishna chooses to maintain him with such care initially, and then he rules over the entire dominion. He has dominion over the entire planet, everybody. He is one of the most celebrated devotees. So do we understand that there is a big distinction on how Krishna chooses to maintain? So Krishna is my only maintainer essentially means that the preservation and what is lacking is going to be carried by Sri Yogamaya, by the spiritual energy, is essentially what is required for us to ultimately call upon Shuddhanam. So please understand that this is a very dynamic movement. This is not religion. You're not practicing religion. If you want to practice religion, go on Sundays to Bridgewater. Do your little pujas and come back. It's perfectly fine. But if you're here to serve in the movement of Lord Chaitanya, the gifts are very different. This requires dedication. So please understand that there is a very big distinction between practicing religion and spirituality. Very big difference. Mundane religion can be practiced. You can follow the codes, rules, regulations. It's up to you. It's perfectly fine. That's very nice. We are not about that. We have nothing with mundane religion has to offer. We are asking for something far greater. We are saying we want to play with God. Our demand is to play with God, be able to feed Him. Our demand is to practically have a conversation with Him. We are making demands which are far beyond mundane religion. So you can't practice Krishna consciousness like we practice mundane religion. It doesn't work. This requires dedication. That's the reason why this is one of the special qualities of Krishna, the 64 qualities of Krishna, where he is surrounded by devotees who have this unusual intensity. We are intense because our desires are unusual. We are not asking for ordinary things, are we? We are not asking for ordinary things. So if we are not asking for ordinary things, then why are we thinking that the path is going to be, lateral? It's a smooth road. No, it's not. We are climbing a cliff. That's what we are doing. Please understand this. Right? Please understand this. We are climbing a cliff. We are climbing a cliff, and there are rewards at every stage. So it's very different from the aspiration of simply trying to fix the problems of life. The problems of life can be fixed immediately once one comes into Krishna consciousness. Even someone who is having some initial practice and comes in touch with Krishna consciousness even for 1 year, what happens? They lose all their anxieties. The anxiety goes away. It's almost as if it's like the first stage. When I was talking to someone who is a practicing psychiatrist, I don't have problems, by the way. It's someone known to me. I was talking to someone who is a practicing psychiatrist, and then she was telling me, and this is a fact. You go into the APA, the American Psychological Association website. You go into different websites which deal with psychiatry and even psychology, mental counseling, and you will find that they really don't have a solution. They don't. They really don't have a solution for fixing mental issues. They don't. It's all a hypothesis. Side effects are known, but whether problems can be fixed are not known. Side effects are known by the medication, by the way. There's serious side effects that are known side effects. It's a part of the labeling. But they really do not know what the outcome is because it's like a gamble. They don't. And this is 100 years after people started experimenting with, altering, chemical imbalances and trying to fix issues. But how is it that devotees who come into the movement and who become intense and who are able to chant, they resolve issues as we go along within a short period of time, almost 6 months? What has been given to us as a process fixes things. Why is it so? It's amazing. A year later, you find the outcome is far more rewarding. It's amazing. Why is it so? Because it's a potent process. That's what this is. So even the initial part, when devotees come in and they take it up seriously, they experience relief. This anxiety goes away. I'm anxious. It goes away because they're coming in touch with something so potent that the usual anxieties just go away, that it disappear. What to say of someone who is a practitioner? What to say of someone who is accomplished as a practitioner? So we'll end here. We'll just see if there are any questions. And then we'll end here. So to quickly summarize, we started out by classifying what Krishna offered us in 7.16 of the Bhagavad Gita, that souls who approach him with desires of resolving issues, souls who approach him with desires of wanting to accumulate wealth, souls who approach him with a certain inquisitive attitude of wanting to know about the absolute, he calls all of these souls magnanimous. This is 7.16. And then this particular situation which he develops into is that these magnanimous souls have aspirations of wanting to either fix problems or wanting to attain a state which is of a better conditioning. So they're either in distress or they're wanting wealth. So this is Mishra, this is mixed. So Srila Rupa Goswami defines the condition of pure devotional service. The condition of pure devotional service is that there is absolutely no aspiration for wanting to resolve either material problems or wanting to attain something which is distinctly material. The aspiration is to be wanting to serve as a Vrajvasi, as a resident of Vrindavan. That is the aspiration which is being offered. So we then compare the fact that those who come with aspirations have sukriti, they have blessings from the past, undoubtedly. But how does that sukriti, which is karma unmukha sukriti or jnana unmukha sukriti, how does that sukriti transform itself into bhakti unmukha sukriti? That happens when they come in touch with the blazing fire of someone who is already in love with Krishna. That person has the ability to put a particle of love into the hearts of those who approach him. So now we compare these two people as pieces of wood. When two pieces of wood, they come together, they create a flame. But the condition for wood to burn with blazing fire is what? It has to be dry. And what is wet wood in this analogy? Wet wood is people with desires that are completely onto this particular plane. That is wet wood. It doesn't burn. And that's the reason why devotees struggle after 20 years, 10 years, 15 years, because they're still out there. And it's quite wet in terms of their mishra, their ability to chant and ability to engage. So then we go from there, condition in Vraja. The condition in Vraja is to be maintained by Krishna. To be maintained by Krishna, and that maintenance is done by Yogamaya, the spiritual energy of Krishna. She makes the arrangements to bring people in close proximity. She arranges for the souls to be awarded a certain kind of service. So this desire to be maintained by Krishna practically invokes the presence of Yogamaya into our lives. If we have desires to manifest and enjoy here, those are completely in the realm of Mahamaya. The same personality of Srimati Durga Devi is Yogamaya in the spiritual sky. In the material sky, she is Mahamaya. So we put ourselves in the hands of the person who is going to give us that particular connection with Krishna. Vrinda Devi in the spiritual sky, Tulsi Maharani, she is a servant of Yogamaya. She is an arrangement of Yogamaya. Under her direction, everything happens. Everything happens under the direction of, the forest of Vrindavan is under the connection of Yogamaya. She is manifesting all this. When we desire to engage in the service of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it is Sri Yogamaya who answers our aspirations for pure devotional service by bringing in touch with the spiritual master. Our coming in touch with the spiritual master is arranged by Yogamaya because we are aspiring, and that condition is practically bringing us in touch with a devotee who can give us guidance. Krishna is attracting us. His Akarshana Shakti comes in the form of spiritual master and the holy names. Okay? So now we're going to conclude again that March 22nd, which is upon us, which is 3 days down the line, Tuesday, is Gaur Purnima. It is the appearance day, the birthday of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is non-different from a combined form of Sri Sri, Radha and Krishna. He is Krishna, who has come in the form of a devotee, wanting to demonstrate what pure devotional service is. What is the aspiration? How does one experience it? Now, it's an amazing time where there can be incredible gifts, spiritual gifts that can be received on such appearance days, especially Gaur Purnima. Mahaprabhu is Mahavadanyaya. He is magnanimous. He has absolutely opened up, the doorways, and he is beckoning everyone. So the first thing that I would like to do is to encourage those of you who are chanting to be more firm in your calling upon the holy names. Because our aspiration of wanting to be engaged by Mahaprabhu, engaged by Krishna in Vrindavan, is for us to serve Mahaprabhu here. We want to serve him here by calling upon the pure name, Harinam, which is not possible unless we chant the pure name in our own japa. So our aspiration is to be able to steady our practice and be able to make advancement in such. Those of you who have chanting 16 rounds, 12 rounds, 4 rounds, 8 rounds, if you are very steady in that practice, consider upgrading to the next level for this particular Gaurabda. Understand this. When you take up a goal on Gaurabda, when you take up a goal on Mahaprabhu's Gaur Purnima, he will bestow the power for you to be able to attain that particular goal. You are showing willingness, and he is going to be giving you the power. Two different things. We are showing willingness, and that willingness is going to be empowered by Mahaprabhu. So those of you who are chanting different levels, please firm your level of chanting on Gaurabda. That's number one. If you're not chanting yet, I encourage you to take up at least one mala of the Mahamantra. That is 7 minutes of your day. There's really nothing you can give Krishna. Nothing that you have is worthwhile other than time. Okay, let's have this aspiration. Let's be clear. What does he want from us? But time. So let's give our time by saying, I'll start with 7 minutes. If you're more magnanimous, give 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 2 hours of your time. Okay. So depending on what it is, I think a particular piece of paper, I guess there's a system which Purnachandra Prabhu, you're going to follow up on this, where you will collect names and you'll also collect aspirations from devotees of wanting to chant. And then I think there would be a ceremony on Tuesday at the temple, which would encourage you to take the vow. And do not be afraid to take vows. Do not be afraid to take vows. Life is about vows. We do it all the time. Okay? And you take vows, you're empowered, and then you'll be able to move forward. So I will end here. Is there any question which I can address? Yeah, tell me. Huh? Sorry? Yeah, please go ahead.
First thing is, how do you become from wet food to dry food? And then the second one is, how these people who are great souls, they have to go from such a pain and then get pleasure later. Why this happens for whoever gets.
Okay. I think I'll answer one by one because this way you can wait. Maybe perhaps I'll cover all the questions. The first one, how does this wet wood, which has so many different conditions, or rather a state which is not conducive for being able to make advancement, how does it go from that level to the other? Only one solution: chanting. Very steady chanting of Harinam is the process and the only process for us to be able to transform ourselves from a state of lack of readiness to a state of readiness. So there is no other answer I can give you. Everything that is going to help your chanting is what you need to take up. Everything that doesn't help, you reject. Okay? And I'm practically talking about instilling discipline in yourself, going to bed at the right time, waking up, whatever is required is going to help. Everything else is going to go away. Now, the second question, why is it that we see this very amazing personalities? Why do we see them suffering? Why do we see great souls who have dedicated themselves to the service of God? Last week we spoke of Lord Jesus. Why would Lord Jesus suffer? Why should he be crucified? And why should Haridas Thakur be beaten around in 22 different marketplaces? Why should Kuresha, the devotee in Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya, why should he go through such tribulations and then to be rewarded later? See, the fundamental condition is, number one, when someone is overwhelmed, they have the ability to surrender better. It's very simple. When everything is going smoothly and when everything is very nicely done, there are very few people who have the ability to surrender. Most people have the ability to completely surrender only when the circumstances are overwhelming. The personalities who are in the previous session, even Lord Jesus, Kuresha, Sri Haridas Thakur, all of these personalities, they did not have to go through tribulations for them to reach that state of understanding who Krishna is. You see? Because what happens when there are material tribulations? What happens when someone is suffering materially? What happens when someone is very sick? They, intrinsically, it's a natural thing, they lose their propensity to identify with the body. They no longer believe that this body is pleasure. They come to this understanding that this body is a painful existence. It is realized knowledge. This is realized knowledge that someone who goes through a painful circumstance in their life come to terms with the fact that this body is capable of fleeting pleasure but longer period of pain. This duality becomes very clear. That's the first thing. The second part is when someone is overwhelmed to the point where they cannot handle anything on their own. At that point in time, it is easy for them to submit themselves to the will of God. And then Krishna takes over. You see? Krishna takes over. What happens after he takes over, after these extreme circumstances? What was displayed by the personalities whom I spoke of earlier, Srila Haridas Thakur, Sri Kuresha, in the Judeo-Christian tradition, Lord Jesus Christ, what was displayed by them was not because they had to go through such tribulation for them to experience Krishna consciousness. What was displayed by them was simply the reward of being able to go through pain for pleasing Krishna and yet experience pleasure. So the condition we spoke of was when Lord Jesus was asked, what did he say? He said, forgive them, they know not what they do. You can never ever forgive the perpetrators of harm unless you are completely free from suffering. You cannot. So even when he was crucified, he was free from suffering. He was in pain, but he was free from suffering. Big difference. You can be in pain, but you can be free from suffering. Two different things. Pain and suffering are completely different topics. So he was able to do that because he was serving, so he was already delivered. The same thing happened with Srila Haridas Thakur. Same words. There was absolutely no way that Srila Haridas Thakur could have known what Lord Jesus said. No way. He mentioned the same thing. What did Sri Ambarish Maharaj say? Same thing. What did Sri Kuresha say? Same thing. Why is it that all these personalities from such diverse traditions, why do they speak the same language when they go through tribulation? What is this commonality? The commonality is that these were great personalities and were demonstrating to us as to what the future was. You see, unless we know that there can be an extreme circumstance, even for those who are dedicated to serving Krishna, unless we know that there can be extreme circumstances, but yet that service and that acceptance of the connection is very, very favorable and pleasurable, unless we know that, we would not ourselves be open for such experiences. Unless we know that one can be Prahalad Maharaj, but one is Prahalad Maharaj and then Lord Narasimha appears. Unless one knows that he appears to save, one would not like to be Prahalad Maharaj. Would he? Right? Why would we like that? So the point which I wanted to say to answer your question is, why do they go through? They go through to demonstrate to us. Why do we need to be able to accept even extreme circumstances? Is because the more helpless we become, the easier it is to surrender. That's why devotees don't mind. They say, okay, put me through extreme circumstances so that I have no other way but to accept you as my maintainer, and I surrender. What was the circumstance in Vraja when the rains happened during Govardhan Leela? Everything got washed away. Extreme circumstances. What was the outcome? Devotees were able to surrender. Does it make sense? So that's the difference. So what is your third question? You forgot?
My experience was in the beginning when I was chanting. So unknowingly, we don't know what is the importance of chanting. So our material desires get fulfilled. And after you know that chanting works this way also, still you know that it's wrong, and still you're chanting to get something. So even though the desire doesn't get fulfilled, why this happens?
Explain the second part again.
Chanting works when you have some desires. Chanting fulfills the desires also. You know that, and then you chant. And then that time the desire doesn't get fulfilled. You do it and you desire. So why this happens when before it gets fulfilled, now it's not getting fulfilled by.
Are you sad?
Just curious why it's
Okay. No, because you're saying why as if you want to fix it. I'm happy it didn't get filled in. That's why. It's good that those desires, which means that as we culture ourselves to want to make advancement and our own desires. See, Krishna is not really picking and choosing, saying, you have this desire, I'll fulfill this. This I'll reject. What he does, he looks at the aggregate of her consciousness. Overall, she is desiring of wanting to serve. So let me make arrangements for that to happen. For that to happen, there might be a need that certain desires which are unhealthy should not be fulfilled. So that also takes place. So he's looking at the aggregate. Okay, so as we make advancement, he's looking at the aggregate. He's not really picking and choosing to resolve our issues.
But in the beginning, why our desires get fulfilled?
It need not quite be that our desires are, sometimes it is purely to encourage us in certain ways. To encourage us. You see, who is going to be encouraged? Lord Shiva goes to the extent of granting extraordinarily inimical desires of the demons. Why does he do that? He does that because they have done tapasya and they have followed the dharma of tapasya. So something has to be granted. So let me grant it. Okay? Because if you don't do that, the others who follow will not even engage in that purification. So you need to have some inspiration for you to be able to move forward. And they calculate and give you what is required so that you're able to move forward. Does it make sense? Yes.
how is pain different from suffering? You said Jesus was in pain, but he did not suffer.
Yeah, yeah. One can be in pain. One can relieve themselves of pain, but continue to suffer. I can give you an example. You see, the difference is in knowledge. I'll give you the example. Hypothetically, someone wakes up. Practically every one of us has gone through this experience in our lives. We wake up with some kind of intent in our physique, our body. And then we say it's paining here or this side, whichever side, it's paining. And then we start speculating, saying it could be gas. It could be because I slept on the wrong side. It could be because I ate something which is improper. We start speculating. And then we feel that the pain is right here in this region. And we Google. We do it these days, aren't we? So we Google that the symptoms are such and such, and I want to know what is happening. Then Google, WebMD, the countless websites, they start telling you that, it could be pancreatitis, it could be gastroenteritis, it could be, the appendicitis, it could be a bunch of things, because all of this is possible because you have pain here. Go and meet a physician. Then it's around 8:30 in the morning. Amazingly, I know you're a physician. Don't hold me to this. Okay. So at 8:30 in the morning, and here in America, unless it's an emergency, you don't find your physician, your GP. You got to wait until 9:30. You call at 9:30 or whatever when the clinic opens. They give you an appointment at 2 o'clock, right? Because that's the slot which is open. Come at 2 o'clock. Come and meet me. So between this 8:30 and 9:30, 2 o'clock, you're holding on to your tummy, and you are suffering a lot of pain, and you're also holding on to your tummy, and there's also this lot of mental stress because you've read up in Google that it could be a bunch of things, very dangerous diseases. Then you go at 2 o'clock and you have this appointment with your doctor, and the doctor checks you up and he says, this is just gas. At that time, he has not given you medicine. Okay? Your pain is still there, but your suffering goes down immensely because he's telling you it is just gas. He has given you just this clue that, oh, it's no big deal, it's just gas. Your suffering goes down. Your pain has not gone down. You're still hurting. Your suffering goes down. So what did he give you? He gave you knowledge. He empowered you with knowledge. So it is this condition of knowledge which allows us to distinguish what is pain and what is suffering. So one could continue in pain and have no suffering whatsoever when they are in complete knowledge that they are not this body. They don't even belong to this planet. And they're supposed to be in the spiritual sky. And what is waiting for them beyond is far greater than what their experiences are. One could be in complete pain but not suffer. Okay? Or one's pain could be completely relieved, but they continue suffering. This happens in the case of any traumatic experience, where, for example, that particular trauma is over, but then the pain is gone because they have given them some kind of symptomatic treatment, but that has changed their life in certain ways, and the suffering goes on for many, many years, even after the pain is gone. So there's a big distinction between these two conditions. Okay? What was your question?
Suppose if somebody gets like become a purity Lord.
I'm sorry. Can you speak up a little bit more? I'm sorry.
Suppose that somebody gets to the level of purity Lord. No desires anymore. So at that level, Krishna takes him back or to.
At that level, there's really no aspiration for them to either go or stay. They are wanting to serve. They have no aspiration. In some cases, Krishna could just take them to wherever his Leela is happening in some other planet. Mahaprabhu's Leela is happening in so many different earthly planets. There are billions of universes. We could be going into any one of those universes because our desire is to serve. So when someone reaches that state, they're just simply in a state where there really isn't any difference between them being here or there. There really isn't any difference. They exist spiritually. So as a consequence, it really makes no difference as to where they have to go.
So somebody can be like a pure Lord and still remain here.
Absolutely. 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 That is the whole process. That's the reason why I keep saying we don't have to die. The Goswamis of Vrindavan experience this. Does it make sense?
As we are doing our daily rounds and deity worship, and you know, and Krishna is still in our heart, but because there are long list of souls, do not so we are not able to that much focus while doing deity worship and while chanting. Still the thoughts come, I have to do that, and but while doing some chores, we still remember Krishna.
Right.
So is it a good state or we have to cut down something?
Yeah, let me put it this way. You see, it was not an accident that Krishna consciousness is practiced in Vrindavan amongst the cowherd boys, where their main pastime is to take the cows and go into the pasture. They are not coding in Vrindavan, which is what most of us do for a living, and we do all this. We are in office and we do all this heavy duty work. So there has to be an aspiration for simplifying life for a serious spiritual aspirant. Simplifying life has to be there. Now, simplicity and aspiring for simplicity does not mean one is not going to be busy. It simply means that you want to simplify so that you don't want these unwanted conditions to overwhelm you to the point where you can't remember who you are and what you're here for. See? That's the real issue. The issue is the impression we have in a setting, modern day setting, is that when we go to work and we come back, the impressions which are created at work are so intense that we come back with quite intense aspirations. You don't have that problem. You're at home, aren't you? What's the problem? Even that's problematic.
The thing is, when I'm doing chanting, I'm still remembering my chores. And when I'm doing chores, I'm still remembering Krishna.
Right. So it's perfectly fine if the chores and the chanting is all centered around Krishna, because in your house you have the deity. The house belongs to the deity. If there are chores to be done, it is that are very much in alignment with Krishna. So is the case with those who go to work. If you're going to work with a complete clear aspiration of wanting to simplify in the future, and you're wanting to aspiring to kind of somehow endeavor and tolerate the circumstances so that your future is going to be simple, so that you could have more absorbed thinking about Krishna, then that is also perfectly fine. So if you quickly want to complete all your chores and then concentrate on more absorbed thinking and reading and chanting, then that's perfectly fine. That's how you order your day. See, that's the reason why you have time. If you're going to be allocating 2 hours in the morning, early in the morning, when nothing needs to be done except that, then that's the perfect time. But during the day, it's perfectly all right for us to make as much endeavor as possible to remember Krishna while we are carrying out our day-to-day activities. Make sense? Sure. Yes.
I wanted to know the role of Yoga Maya when we are Karma Vishnu Bhakti, right? So how does Yoga Maya really? When we discussed like there is no pure Bhakti in Karma Vishnu Bhakti, that's when we are trying.
Bhakti begins in Bhava, in reality. That is Sadhya. Before that, we are in the material world. This is based on Srila Prabhupada's writings. Once we leave the material world, that is when the consciousness leaves. That is when real bhakti begins. Before that, it's mixed in different levels. So the intensity of mixture is less and less as we make advancement. So what is the role of Sri Yogamaya for people who are midway? Exactly the role which she performs in being able to bring us in touch with Krishna in different ways, being able to give us opportunities to serve, keep bringing us in touch with his servants who have come here, special souls who are here to guide us in different ways, give us direction. So this is what she does. She practically brings us closer to him in different ways and arranges for it. See, the aggregate desire has to be that we want to make advancement, we want to serve. That aggregate desire is being responded to in different ways. It's mixed, yes, we acknowledge that, but it is aggregately wanting to make advancement. Right? So that's our role. Yes, Prabhu.
I have a follow-up question on Yoga Maya. So Yoga Maya in Vrindavan, Yoga Maya makes Yashoda Maya and others forget that Krishna is sitting there as your God. However, Vishnu Pitama is also great devotee. He remembers. So I think Yogamaya should be working on him as well. He always remembers that Krishna is supreme personality of God. Uh, and then when Yogamaya, few questions come together, and then if Yogamaya makes forget people in Vrindavan that Krishna is supreme personality of Godhead, how come they are still serving?
Which one? Yeah, there's a difference. Here's the difference. The difference is that the Vrajvasis and the chanting of the Harinam by them, the calling of the name of Krishna by the Vrajvasis is very different from the calling of the name of Krishna in Dwaraka. See, recognizing Krishna as the supreme person is not as close a relationship as the Vrajvasis who don't see him as God but who love him intensely, wanting to engage with him in different relationships. Shuddha Bhakti, where Krishna is practically dealing with the soul in the different mellows, where he has forgotten he is God, Yogamaya operates on him as well. To facilitate his interaction, to give him pleasure, he forgets he is God. The devotees forget he is God. And then there is this extraordinarily close bond. So, aspiring for Vraja Bhakti, which is what has been given to us by Mahaprabhu, is very, very advanced and is extraordinary. It goes beyond, because it is not that there is authority in Vrindavan. That authority of God in Vrindavan, the knowledge of God in Vrindavan, is completely covered over by the sweetness of God. It is the sweetness of God in Vrindavan which overpowers the devotee. Bhishma Pitamaha was looking upon Krishna authoritatively. He was relating to him as God. That is very different. Okay, so there's a different. So Yogamaya is facilitating based on adhikar. What is the adhikar of Bhishma Pitamaha? To deal with Krishna as Krishna God, I am his servant, Dasya. So Yogamaya facilitates that. In Vraja, what does she facilitate? She facilitates Krishna forgetting who he is. She facilitates the devotees forgetting who they are, so that they have this very specific rasa. The cowherd boys jump on his back, he jumps on their back. Sometimes the cowherd boys become tired. They say, Krishna, press my feet. He presses their feet. Sometimes they press his feet. Krishna sometimes grabs, what they're eating and puts them into his mouth. They take things from his mouth and put them into their, this interaction of forgetting that they're dealing with God is the specific gift of Raja Bhakti. Okay? It's very different. The facilitation is there based on adhikar, authority. Good. So yes, Mataji.
What's the difference? Is there a difference of the devotee who in the spiritual world is like a person and the other one is like a stone?
My spiritual master, before he left, he was writing his reflections, and he actually wrote that he would even, am I even qualified to think of my being a stone in Vrindavan? Everything is conscious. It is just that the stone is conscious in wanting to pave and allow Krishna to walk upon, Srimati Radharani to walk upon, but is quite neutral because it has to remain in its place. While those who are the cowherd boys, the gopis, the mothers, they are more dynamic, where they have deeper desires of wanting to engage in service in a more profound way. And that is different. It's even greater. So one is Shanta, neutral. The other is the higher mellows.
Can a person aspire to be one of the other, or Krishna just ask them to be?
Well, as we chant the holy names, everything is revealed as to what is our specific role. We will develop our eternal aspirations as we chant the holy names. The knowledge comes to us. It's revealed.
Yogamaya interacts with only the Vrajvasis and Krishna, or she does interact with both?
We are aspiring to go to Vraja, so she is interacting with us. She interacts with all of those who want to interact with Krishna at different levels. Depending on their authority, she offers them information, she offers them guidance, she offers them facility. Okay, let me see. There's an online question. Please, can you explain if you come into Mahamaya once she maintains, does she maintain all the time, or does it depend on your free will choice that you make moment to moment? Are you referring to Yogamaya? Yes, you are. Okay. Yeah, the question is, again, if you come into Yogamaya in the sense that if you're in touch with Yogamaya, does she maintain all the time, or does it depend on your free will choice that you make moment to moment? This unsteady devotional service is where we vacillate between trouncing, or rather, coming in touch with Mahamaya versus Yogamaya. We keep going like a ping pong ball from one side to the other. This unsteady devotional service. Until one becomes completely steady, saying, I have no other aspiration, we are moving from one layer to the other. You see? One can go, for example, to Mayapur or Vrindavan in India, physically, UP, and you can walk around in Vrindavan and you can have an experience of Goloka because we are interacting with Yogamaya and we have advanced so much. Or we can walk around in Vrindavan interacting with material energy, and we start observing that there are pigs moving around. There is a sewer which is running, it's an open sewer, and you start looking at all the issues of Vrindavan from a material perspective. So where are we? It depends on our aspiration of wanting to engage. Okay, so even when we are in Raja, we are in Govardhan, you're doing parikrama, you go from one movement of wanting to connect to a movement of observing nonsense. So this goes on. This is unsteady behavior. This is not absorbed. This unsteady behavior eventually becomes steady, and we are in touch constantly and nourished by spiritual energy. We are never let go, though. We are constantly monitored for health because everybody recognizes this unsteady behavior in the beginning. Okay, so I think I'm going to stop here because it's 10 o'clock, past 10. We'll continue with the questions or any other queries you have, the subsequent session. Okay, so thank you very much. So very happy to.